Welcome back to Cosmopolitan Anonymous. I am your favorite new mama bougie vintage, and today's video is the Norvina palette review. I was gonna fuse it with the Jaclyn Hill palette, but the Vault collection, but Jaclyn Hill has way too many palettes to fuse with this. We'll be here forever swatching, so I'm just gonna have to do that another day if you guys even still want it, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people aren't buying it because of all of the drama right now. But I bought it, and my palette does indeed say V2. All of my palettes say V2 on them, which apparently does not mean version 2, which I think is BS, but that's neither here nor there because this is about the Norvina palette, and that is why I'm wearing a purple sweater. Oh, ma'am! That's why I'm wearing a purple sweater. I'm just priming my face. I already sprayed my Smashbox primer water, and now I'm applying my... Okay, some of you might have already seen me use this palette. If you didn't, I will link that video in the description box, but it's not a review video. It was just basically kind of like a get ready with me. So I made a little bit of commentary about how I feel about the palette already, but this is the palette. Norvina. It's very pretty purple, and this is the inside of the palette. Of course, you get a mirror. You do get a brush. My brush is on my table. I use that brush to create the look, and I'll be using it today as well. A couple specs. Oh my god, there's so much writing on the back of this box. It's actually overwhelming. It has 18-month shelf life. It is cruelty free. You get 0.71 grams / 0.02 ounces per pan. And it is described as 14 whimsical shades ranging from bold and bright mattes to soft pastel shimmers. I've always wanted to create a palette that embodies my spirit. I'm a dreamer at heart and get lost in my own fantasy world daily. It's a whimsical place that leaves you feeling carefree. If I had to explain how these colors made me feel, I would say happy. Norvina. When this palette first debuted on Instagram, I was like, girl, them colors look ashy and patchy, okay? Okay, I didn't say patchy, but I definitely did say ashy. And when I get the palette in person, I don't necessarily feel the exact same. I do feel like there are ashy colors in the palette, but I don't feel like they're super ashy to where they can't be used. They're definitely colors that I've used previously, but I don't know if everybody can get away with using them. But one thing you must keep in mind with this palette is that it's a lot like Subculture, and I don't see any directions anywhere on the packaging, and I'm not going to go to the website because that's an inconvenience to my life. The Subculture palette is a palette I didn't end up purchasing because of the reviews. A lot of people were having trouble using the palette, and I don't need to have trouble while I'm doing my makeup. It's supposed to be fun. So I didn't buy that, but I did notice when I was using this the other day that it's very, very powdery, and there's lots of kickback, especially in... I only really use 2 colors out of the palette, and Love, which is this color here. This color right here. As you can see, it is like used and abused. As soon as you touch it, there's just plenty of fallout and stuff. I'm going to see if the rest of the colors are like that. On the plus side, it's super duper pigmented. So I'm just going to get my arm ready for the swatches. I will be using my Fenty Beauty eyelid primer. Does Anastasia have an eyeshadow primer? Because I think that's weird if she doesn't, because they have a lot of shadows and a lot of palettes. To not have an eyeshadow primer is super odd. But I don't know if they have one or not. I'm going to do all my swatches with the brush that was provided, or make sure that you blow your brush off. So this is all of... Okay, great. Thanks, lovely. This is all of the matte shades. They swatch pretty decently. Pretty creamy. Okay, I just swatched Summer on my arm, and it's a little streaky. Wild Child doesn't even really want to pick up on the brush, but we'll see how it swatches. Chunky. I'm not blowing my brush off, but the shimmers aren't swatching as nicely. Oh, Celestial is freaking powdery. Oh my gosh. But it swatched nicer than the other colors. I don't know what's going on with this palette. So this is the entire top row and bottom row swatched. I'm now going to swatch it on my friend's arm so you guys can see it on a lighter skin tone. Okay, so this is the entire palette swatched on Katie's arm, and you can't even really see that first color, but that is base, so you don't really need to see it. Some of them are a little chunky, some of them are chalky, and these are all finger swatches, whereas my arm was all brush swatches. Okay, due to the fact that this palette is mad powdery and pigmented, I'm gonna do my eye makeup first. So of course for the lids I am going to be priming with my Fenty Beauty primer. You guys are forever dragging me for not using my lid space, when really you guys need to be minding your damn business. You guys are telling me I take my lid space for granted, so we're gonna go up there today. Rolling, got me stargazing. Alrighty then. So of course we're gonna start with Eccentric because Eccentric is the closest thing we have to orange in this palette. And I feel like Incense is not a good enough transition shade for me. So we're just going to work that into the crease. Okay, and then I'm going to take Incense, which is this brown shade here. And I'm going to apply it above. It's doing absolutely nothing for me. Like the shade of my skin. I don't like that. Uh-oh. And then I'm going to take Dreamer, which is this. Oh, I blew and everything came off the damn brush. Great. Like legit. But I'm using that as my brow bone highlights. Like, am I supposed to use the flat brush for my brow bone or something? Because the product is literally just coming off of the brush every time I blow it. Look how much powder. I can't. Like, I don't mind kickback per se, but when it's this much, it's annoying. Because a lot of the times I like to do my eyeshadow after I do my face makeup. But I'm not really able to do that with this palette. So now I'm going to take Passion, which is this color here, which doesn't have as much kickback, surprisingly. And I'm going to run it on that outer V. Okay, so clearly we're going for an evening look. I mean, it's probably 9 o'clock, so I am going to take Soul, which is this shade here. Which I actually really like on the lid. And I'm just bringing that halfway. Wait. Yeah, the amount of fallout I'm getting, you guys, you could never ever do your makeup first. And then do your eyes, you have to do your eyes beforehand. I really want to see how Celestial performs on the lid because it's the purple shimmer right here.
You like it?
And it's really chunky and chalky in the palette, so I'm going to apply it with the flat brush, or the flat side of the brush that came with it. First gonna apply it right here in the middle just because I want to see how, okay, it's pretty dull. I'm gonna wet it because I don't like that at all. No, I'm a little disappointed with that. You have to really like build up the shimmer, which is dumb. And the blue color that I applied, it's kind of turned gray on me. It's like it mixed in with the other color and it's not sitting on top, and I don't like that. Here.
Here.
I hate that so much. That color's not really working out for me, so I'm gonna take rose gold beside it, which is super chunky on the brush. Like, chunky, bitch. Look at it. Look how it comes off. Yeah. Well, that means it must be super pigmented, and it is. So that tells me that the shimmers are not all formulated the same, because the way that this one applied, it's intense, whereas the purple one is just like lackluster. Okay, so I really like the rose gold shade, and it looks nice beside the purple, but the purple just is not performing well. It doesn't even pick up on the brush properly. And at this point, I'm layering it, and it's just a hot ass mess. Also, all of the eyeshadow is falling onto my clothing, so not only can I not put on my base makeup first, I also have to apply this with just my bra on. So I'm just reapplying that blue shade, and I'm patting it on. Hopefully it'll stay this time. Okay, so due to the fact that this is just completely unacceptable. Unacceptable! I'm going to have to grab my Vivid Amethyst by Stila, and I'm going to put it in the center where the purple color is supposed to be, because, let's see. They got me effed up. I feel like there's so much fallout. It's astronomical. I'm just going to do a quick wing. So on the inner corner, I'm going to take Dazzling, which is also very soft. So I'm using my Makeup Forever Stick Foundation for complexion in the shade 177Y505. I don't really know if that's actually the shade, but it is today. And this has literally been my go-to foundation for the last couple of weeks. It is everything and then some. And I was actually supposed to compare it to the Tom Ford foundation, because it's the same type of foundation. I actually like the Makeup Forever one more, and it is a fraction of the price. So now I'm taking my NARS concealer. For highlighter, I'm going to take my MAC Golden Bronze. Okay guys, I just wanted to do like the extreme highlight that the beauty gurus wear. How do you leave your house like this? I feel like it's okay on camera, but to go somewhere and be seen in public with a highlighter this beaming is not okay. I said what I said. And then I'm going to take my Stila Liquid Glitter and Glow in Bronze Bell, and I'm going to apply it to the lower inner corner. I'm going to take my Maybelline Crayon Kohl in 210, and I'm going to line my waterline. And I'm just taking Soul again and cleaning up that lower lash area and smoking it out. Of course, you want to throw in some mascara. Now for lips, I am going to line with my Naughty Nude pencil by NYC. For lip, we're gonna go nude because that's what we like to do here, you know? We like to send nudes. So, I know it looks like crackhead. I know, don't worry, I'm putting gloss over it. So it's not gonna look like that. I call it my Tyrone Bigum's lips. I know we had gloss. I was looking at the gloss on it because this is like the lipstick topper. Okay, I guess it's time for my final thoughts on the Norvina palette. I think that this is not necessarily a palette I would repurchase, only because the colors in here are just not everyday colors and or something that I would use every day. There's a couple colors in here that I would use every day, but much like the Galaxy palette by Fenty Beauty, at first when I got it I was like, oh my gosh, yes, but then I realized later that it was such a waste because I never picked it up to use it. Apart from that, the powderiness of the shades was a little irritating because, like I said, I like to apply my base makeup a lot of the time first, especially if I'm filming, just because it's easier that way to do my base off camera and then come on camera and just do an eye look. If I were to do that with this palette, I would have to wipe my whole shit off because I would have fallout everywhere. I think because this palette is a palette that Norvina basically curated for her own personal taste, if you don't have the same taste as her, you're not really gonna like this palette. What I can say is that it's not as ashy as I thought it was going to be. The colors are truly pigmented, but the blue color that I was using faded, and it actually faded away again. It didn't fade on the bottom, on the lower lash line, but it definitely did fade on the eyelids, which is frustrating to me because it didn't come with a primer. I used my Fenty primer, and most eyeshadows work really well with my Fenty primer, so I'm not sure why the blue color would be kind of disappearing into the middle of nowhere. I realized there is a little bit of inconsistency with the way the shadows perform. Some are powdery, some are chalky, some are not. Some are chunky, especially the shimmery shades, and some barely perform at all. Like Wild Child doesn't really perform. Even looking at it in the palette, if you compare this one to Wild Child, you'll see that this one clearly is very soft, whereas Wild Child is not. Lots of kickback. Like I said, some people don't mind the kickback, but for me personally, it's just not a palette I could see myself repurchasing. Am I going to use it? Yes. I'm going to try to keep working with it like I say with all the other palettes I review. But as of right now, if I never bought it, I would not be upset. Like if it was sold out and I couldn't get my hands on it, I wouldn't even worry about it. I don't know. I feel like these last couple of drops by ABH haven't been as highly anticipated as like Modern Renaissance. I feel like that was their best drop, and when they were really big on like their highlighter palettes, but I feel like they've kind of fallen off a bit. Obviously I'm obsessed with Prism palette, and that's what I wanted to mention. The Prism palette is a palette that you guys see me use religiously. I haven't used it in a while because I've been purchasing so many different palettes to try out, but the Prism palette is a palette that I like swore by. This palette could never get that same kind of recognition from me, especially because I had to use the Stila Liquid Shimmer and Glow to get that purple to stand out on my eyelid, because that also was fading into the middle of nowhere. So that's pretty much it. I'm not obsessed with the palette. I could really do without it, and that's that on that, okay? I love you all, and I'll definitely see you in the next one.